Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that, but don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 300. We are now on our 300th episode. Wow, how time flies. We've been up and running since late 2015, and now here we are on the year 2025, June 25th, 2025. We are covering movies that are coming out the week of June 27th, 2025, Friday that is. Movies reviewed, new movies, include The Sound, Off the Grid, and Escape from the 21st Century. I will be reviewing Off the Grid, Erik will be reviewing The Sound, and Bruce Purkey will be reviewing Escape from the 21st Century. The reason why we only have 3 movies as far as the new movies this week, as opposed to 4 or 5, is we're also covering a Patreon assigned pick from Thank You Stephen Schrock for your choice of a very interesting movie called Copycat, movie from 1995. That's our spotlight this month. Patreon 1995. Again, for our patrons, you'll be treated to a Patreon episode in the coming days. By the end of this month in June, we're spotlighting the year 1995. Erik Holmes, co-host. How are you, buddy?
Not bad at all. I got to talk to Bruce over Zoom a couple days ago.
Oh, cool.
So that was fun. I let him out of the attic.
Good. Yeah, and then you guys talked about Project Hail Mary. What's the spoiler? What's the twist? You want to say it?
You have to listen to it and find out.
Okay.
Or better yet, just read the book and then watch it.
I haven't downloaded the video yet, but I think it's a 2-part episode. How long?
We just had to record it twice because I don't have the Zoom that you do.
Okay.
So it's limited on time. So there was a point where it said we had 50 seconds left and Bruce started talking. I'm like, cut it. We got to stop this and restart it because the burger money ain't paying all the bills.
Or even one of the bills, or maybe even the cheeseburger. I think hopefully all 3 of us are making enough money on CinemAddicts where once every 2 months, or maybe once a month, each of us can afford a cheeseburger. And that's not against our patrons on Patreon or the people who listen to this episode or CinemAddicts in general. We thank you so much for your support. I sound like a pitch man all the time, Erik Holmes. You want to do some pitching?
I'd say,
what do you want to say?
When that Project Hail Mary video comes out,
yes,
hopefully we've enticed you to read the book before we get to spoilers. But also, once we get to spoilers, I think you might hear it and go, I should just read the book.
Okay.
Don't hate yourself. Just read the book and then listen to it.
A little tease for that video, which I will be uploading on the CinemAddicts YouTube channel shortly, maybe in the coming days. So I think Erik wants it done before the Project Hail Mary trailer comes out. So I'm just going to
I know for a fact the trailer's going to spoil the reveal.
And it's going to be horrible when they spoil the reveal.
The book's still great with having that spoiled, but it's just a great moment in the book. And then you'll get to it and then it'll be like, yeah, I saw this coming. I knew this was going to happen. Instead, you can just read it and go, oh, this is what he was talking about while the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Erik, you've been obsessed with Project Hail Mary for quite a while and you love it so much. There are so many books out there to read and so much projects out there to actually digest. Speaking of digest, bless you? You're coughing? You want some water?
On my spit.
Spit, SP. Okay, family show. Spit is a fine word for a family.
Yeah, not the SH word.
Okay. Do you need coffee? Liquids?
No,
you're okay?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay, you're good.
I inhaled some spit and I'm like, why do I keep doing that? But it tastes so good.
Oh boy. Oh wow. You should put a patent on it or brand it Erik Holmes' spit for sale for more than cheeseburger money, for truffle burger money. So what makes Project Hail Mary such a special project for you that you're just completely obsessed over it? And you spent some time with Bruce Purkey talking about it. That's what makes it so special for you?
It was just Andy Weir leveling up from The Martian. The Martian was a great book. And then I didn't know about Artemis and I heard about Project Hail Mary. So I read that and it was like, this is almost as good as The Martian. Ooh, this is as good as The Martian. Oh, this is miles and miles better than The Martian. And
wow.
And then I keep listening to, I listen to the audiobook pretty regularly nowadays.
Oh, what? Just while you're driving or to put yourself to sleep? Just for white noise, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then when I heard Bruce was reading it, I was like, I guess I'll just go ahead and listen to the audiobook again. And yeah, Probably one of my favorite books.
Erik, I think it's been 20 to 25 years since I've actually finished a book. And that's no joke. And maybe I might give Project Hail Mary a chance. Maybe I'll go to my local Barnes and Noble store because out of respect to our friendship, maybe I should purchase, not even eat our Cinematics Patreon burger money. I might as well spend it for a paperback.
I use it as Audible membership money.
Okay. All right. Okay. Project Hail Mary. Would love to hear what you guys, Cinematics, patrons, Patreon members, people who are cinephiles who are listening, tell us what you think. Project Hail Mary, will it be ruined for the twist if people find out with the trailer? What do you guys think of the overall book? Are you guys excited for the movie? So again, check out our Cinematics YouTube channel for that Project Hail Mary discussion with Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes in the coming days. Now, first up, let's talk about the movies that are coming out this Friday, June 27th. I have a movie called Off the Grid. It's headlined by Josh Duhamel. Eric Holmes, Josh Duhamel, hot and cold on this actor. What is your general thoughts on Josh Duhamel? He started off with Transformers, and then he moved on to action thrillers. He's had a pretty solid career, right? He's solid leading.
Well, I will say I abhor the Transformers movies. I think they're utter garbage, but it has nothing to do with Josh Duhamel. I like him fine. I haven't seen him in anything that's floored me, but I get the sense that maybe I haven't looked deep enough, or maybe...
That's fair.
He's definitely got the potential there, but I just haven't come across it.
Same here. I haven't seen, I'm trying to think of Josh Duhamel movies I've seen. I know he did a romantic comedy with Jennifer Lopez several years ago, which I have yet to see. So Off the Grid, I was excited for this movie. It seems like an interesting concept. Along with Josh Duhamel, it stars Peter Stormare, Greg Kinnear, actress Maria Elisa Camargo, who I'll be interviewing in a few moments after we're done taping this episode, Eric Holmes. But in Off the Grid, Josh Duhamel plays a scientist who is, quote, off the grid because he's developed a technology that supposedly has an unlimited supply of energy. I think it's called, I don't know anything about science, it's cold fusion or something like that. He's
unobtainium.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good word, Eric. Unobtainium. But he's created this new tech, which he initially wants to help the world with this unlimited energy discovery or this thing he's been working on. So he's working on it off the grid. Why? Because the people he worked for are very corrupt. His supervisors are played by Greg Kinnear and Peter Stormare. Peter Stormare is the head of this whole business. When he realizes they want to weaponize his discovery or his tech, he goes off the grid and he's trying to hide while he's trying to perfect this tech. And that's essentially what the movie is. He's hiding from them because what happens is Peter Stormare sends Greg Kinnear's character along with a whole bunch of mercenaries into this small town in the middle of nowhere to find Josh Duhamel's character. And yeah, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of action, and it's a very good action, solid action thriller. Look on the plot. I'm looking at the plot line here. Armed with unrivaled brains and brawn, the wild genius turns guerrilla warfare into a deadly science. So what makes this action-packed thriller interesting is Duhamel's character, even though Duhamel himself is he looks like he's in shape and he's a strong enough guy, the way he dispatches these mercenaries is through a very MacGyver-esque, interesting type of tech way, and he outwits a lot of his opponents, which is very interesting. And I really enjoyed this movie. This is just one of these action thrillers that you can watch on a lazy Sunday or a lazy afternoon and just hanging out and just watch it and enjoy it. And we mentioned cheeseburger at the beginning of the episode. This is a digestible, tasty cheeseburger. 3.5 stars for Off the Grid. I like Josh Duhamel. I should watch more of these Josh Duhamel type of movies. I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but I liked him in this character. In real life, I think he does live off the grid. He actually has not a lake house, and it's right by, he's farming his own stuff too. I saw this really interesting video with him and his family, how they live away from the comforts of the city. So it might be a character that Duhamel relates to as well. He seemed perfect for this role, and this movie just flew by. I just really had a good time with Off the Grid. If you want a thriller with some good action and just a twist on the genre, give it a shot. Again, Off the Grid, theaters, digital, and on demand, June 27th. My rating, 3.5 out of 5 stars for Off the Grid. Also showing up later this week, a new movie is called Escape from the 21st Century. Bruce Purkey over in the Cinem-Attic will have that review in a few moments after our episode is done. But Erik Holmes has another new movie called The Sound, which comes out in theaters Friday, June 27th. Erik, what is The Sound about, and your thoughts on this movie?
Real quick, my screen just went black. What was your rating on Off the Grid?
Off the Grid, it's 3.5 stars, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, no worries.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that was weird. I don't know what happened. I got gremlins in my computer.
It happens. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, The Sound, written and directed by Brendan Devane. Got William Fichtner in it. Kyle Gass makes a little cameo. But it's basically...
Alex Honnold, isn't it? He's a icon, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And they're basically it's a team of people, and they're gonna climb up this mountainside, and I can't exactly remember. They come across like a Native American, and like this area that they're gonna climb is off limits, and they're the first people that get to climb this and mark it or do whatever they're gonna do, and everything's going normal until they get about halfway up the mountain, and then they start hearing a sound, and then they start going a little nuts. And this is either like the Native American showed up at the beginning. This is obviously a supernatural thing going on. And then it goes from a fun kind of extreme sports, like mountain climbing movie, until about halfway through. Then it becomes pretty much a horror movie or thriller, but pretty good. I think the closest thing to compare this to is Fall. But imagine if Fall, but also probably like a Wendigo or like a sort of supernatural thing. Like, even if I wanted to spoil it, I don't think I could fully explain what this thing is.
When you interviewed Brendan Devane, his pitch was what? The Thing meets Free Solo. Was he correct in that combination?
Yeah, there's some of it, especially with The Thing, because so the people, what happens is they'll hear a noise, and then they'll start going nuts. They won't even be wearing their equipment. They'll just be spider walking on the side of the mountain without any help. And then they try to kill like anyone else who's near them. And then after something happens, they'll try to be talking to the people down below. And they're like, I don't understand what you're talking about. So there's a bit of The Thing in there. Not one for one, but it's definitely has some of that, a little bit of that. I saw so-and-so go nuts. Are you the next one? But they don't lean too much into that. But yeah, there's a little bit of that in here.
Okay, so that is The Sound. So it's cool that's William Fichtner's in it. I always love William Fichtner's.
He's not in it a lot. Who's the guy's name? Mark Hills.
Mark Hills. He's the main character, right?
It's weird because he's like the 20th down on the IMDb, but he's like basically the main character. But William Fichtner plays his dad. He's in it at the beginning and at the end. And of course, William Fichtner is always great. But any complaint I would have with the William Fichtner movie is he's not in it enough.
That's a valid complaint. Just at least he's in it for a little bit. That's good. In The Sound. Also, key cities that it's going to be. It hits theaters Friday, June 27th, as well as VOD platforms like Apple, Amazon, Fandango at home, and all major platforms. But if you're in such cities as Los Angeles, New York, Dallas, Denver. Okay, so Chicago. What else? There's a whole Orlando. So it's opening up Atlanta, Saratoga Springs. So there's a whole bunch of cities that The Sound is going to be. And I hope
you'll be hearing about it all over the place.
And hopefully, if you're in a theater, you can have.
And start spider walking on the side of a mountain.
I'm telling you, if this movie doesn't have good audio, Erik, that's shooting itself in the foot. This sound better have good sound in that theater, whatever theater you go to.
I would say I didn't notice it, so that's probably a good thing.
Okay. So that is The Sound in theaters and on VOD Friday, June 27th. Erik Holmes, your rating and final comment on The Sound.
I would probably go 3.5 on this.
Okay.
I think had I not seen The Fall, this would probably be higher, but I did see The Fall, but this one's not bad. I enjoyed myself watching it. And also didn't have issues with the sound. I didn't mention this, but there's like certain special effects, especially towards the end, that get a little not great. You'll let that go.
You let that go because it's an indie project, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. The weird thing is they shot on the volume, which is, we talked about that in the interview, and that's nuts because I thought they only shot Mandalorian and Marvel movies on there, but apparently not. Apparently indie movie can get in there, but according to the director, that was no easy feat, but good on him for that. But no, not the, like some of the effects seem not great. Yeah,
All right.
I just let that go. The movie was fun and strange, and I dug it.
How was Mark Hills as a lead? Was he okay?
He was distracting only because he looks a lot like my friend Sebastian.
Okay. All
So,
right.
so it was kind of like when I was watching Doctor Sleep and the little kid that gets killed in that looked like almost exactly like my nephew Brandon. And I'm like, I can't watch this. Had nothing to do with the movie. It was just distracting that someone looks like someone that I know. It
Okay, so
kinda
that
takes you out of it a bit. But
it
that has
does.
nothing to do with the movie. That's a me problem.
I always say that is a me problem. That is the sound reviewed by Eric Holmes. Again, it's written and directed by Brandon Devane, I believe.
Yeah.
Eric Holmes gave it 3.5 stars. Eric is still on the docket as I cannot stand my fake voice. Eric Holmes, is this really a fake voice that Greg Sruzavasti? Me? Is this my real voice or my fake voice? This is my
That's
lively
how you-
voice?
That's how
I
you sound to me every time we talk.
Okay. Oh,
Every time
thank
I
you,
met
Eric.
you in person, it's, hey, Eric, how's it going? I'm like, hey,
Because
this is my regular voice. It's good to see you in person.
Because, folks, this is my real voice. And if you listen to my real voice, I think you might be droned out from the entire thing. When I was with Anderson Cowan from Cinem-Attic, I didn't sound like this, right? I didn't sound like this with Anderson. When Anderson was doing Cinem-Attic, I sounded like this because Anderson would be the high voice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm trying to be the high
And I'm not doing that. So someone's got to
gotta
take
do
the reins. Might
Someone's
as well
got to
be you.
Yeah, might as well. I don't mind taking the high voice. Okay.
My voice is too low and monotone.
I'm taking the high voice. Eric Holmes is taking the low road, which is actually the high road because he has some extra value added stuff for this episode. And that is a review of Alma and the Wolf. This is a movie that I really wanted to watch. I did not have time to get it in, so to speak. That's what She Said family show within last week. Alma and the Wolf, quote, after a violent attack, paranoia spreads through Spiral Creek. But when Deputy Ren Accord, I'm assuming played by Ethan Embry, gets too close, his son vanishes and reality begins to fracture. It stars Ethan Embry and Legion Lee. It actually hit theaters on Friday, June 20th, last week. And as of this moment, it is currently on digital. I did not see it. Eric Holmes was able to check it out. This seems like a very interesting acting piece for these two leads. Did the movie work for you, Eric?
It did until it didn't. And then it did again.
Okay. All right.
I went on a journey with this one. It was directed by Michael Patrick Jan, who's I think is probably best known for he was one of the cast members of The State, but he was never like a big cast member. And when that was out, I always figured he would be like a behind the scenes kind of guy, and apparently that's kind of what he ended up doing. Written by Abby Miller. This one kind of similar to the sound. They cheap out on some of the effects in this, especially the wolf costume. If you can let that go, this is basically a character study on Ethan Embry.
Okay.
It's got a lot in common with the Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Is it easy to let go? Is it easy to let go of that wolf costume, Eric? Was it easy for you to let go?
It was a little silly at first, but I'll get there.
Okay.
So similar to Wolf of Snow Hollow, this is a werewolf movie, but how Wolf of Snow Hollow is a werewolf movie, but it doesn't lean so much on the werewolf. It leans more on the characters. This does almost the exact same thing. I think Wolf of Snow Hollow is a lot better than this, but this still has its pluses, not least of which is that wolf costume, not great, but as the movie goes on, it starts getting more insane.
Good in a good way.
Now this lame wolf costume fits the vibe of the movie. It also goes where Wolf of Snow Hollow can be funny and dramatic at the same time. This one kind of starts and stops. We're funny now, we're dramatic now, we're suspenseful now, we're funny. But it's weird. It's like a different kind of flavor of a similar taste. I don't even know how to describe that, but I would say if you like Wolf of Snow Hollow, give this a shot because it's similar to that, but it's also its own thing.
You said character study, so I'm assuming if our fellow cinephiles listening to this are fans of the work of Ethan Embry, this is just a value-added experience, I'm assuming?
Ethan Embry is great in this. Just watching his character. There's even a part, I laughed a lot in this.
Okay.
I was freaked out a lot in this, and I damn near cried at one part.
That's a lot of emotions, Eric.
Yeah. I don't know that anyone else watching this will have the same reaction I did, but there's one, and I can't talk about it obviously, but there's one part where something happened and it just felt like crap. It's
Wow.
like, oh man.
Was it
Hurry up and get over movie? But it wasn't like hurry up and get over because this movie sucks. It's hurry up and get over so I don't have to feel this way anymore.
okay? So I have no idea Legion Lee, who she plays, but was she good too?
Oh,
'Cause-
so she's Alma. So Ethan Embry's a cop, and then Lee Jun Lee, she's the one that tells him about the werewolf, and he doesn't believe her. And she's like, "You gotta go kill the wolf." And he's like, "I can't kill the wolf. They're protected species." And then she's like, "Remember in high school, I always had a thing for you. Did you ever have a crush?" If there's like a little something between them, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna kill this freaking wolf." And then of course he goes out, and then he sees the two goats, and then he sees the wolf, but the wolf isn't a wolf; it's a werewolf. And he shoots at it, it disappears and goes back. She comes in the police station. She says, "Did you kill the wolf yet?" It's like, "Oh, keep it down." "No, I didn't. I tried, but it wouldn't die." So she's all. It's whether they call it Alma and the Wolf because she's not the main character.
Okay, very
She's
cool.
she's one of many supporting characters, and it's Ethan Embry is like the main character of this.
This sounds
by a
very
lot.
interesting the way you're talking about it. I'm
It
talking right
is.
now.
Just know, like the barrier to entry is that it's cheap in parts, but if you can get over that, I think the story's good, and just watching Ethan Embry would be awesome.
It got
Actually,
you
watching
emotional. That has to be good.
Yeah, I can't say
Almost.
that everyone else will feel the same way, but that part got me.
Who cares what everyone else feels?
I'm just saying, if you
I'm
watch
just
Alma
saying
and the
it's
Wolf,
you.
arms crossed, going, "Erik, I didn't tear up once. I didn't even get choked up. I did. Sorry."
Okay. It's not this is about you. This is not about Bruce Purkey
I'm
loitering in the attic or me, Greg Sruzavosty, and his fake voice talking and extemporizing or whatever. This is about
Erik, I saw the movie. I didn't get choked up.
Okay,
Like and subscribe.
love it. Great, Erik. It was very good. Alma and the Wolf. Okay, so what is your rating and final comments on this? Now, I don't know if it's currently still on theaters, but it hit theaters June 20th, maybe in select theaters this week. You can probably check it out there, but it's on digital. So I will leave a link for
Might
you
be on
guys to check it out.
The Apple Plus.
Yeah,
Is that where
Apple
it's on?
Plus, Fandango
Yeah.
at Home, Amazon.
Yeah.
We'll leave the Amazon link because that helps with our little cheeseburger money. I'm thinking actually, Erik Holmes, I'm going to save up some of our money that we've earned from YouTube. I'm going to get myself a nice truffle burger this weekend. So I'm
Check
the
out.
truffle.
Use
Yes.
money and rent Alma and the Wolf. It'll be
Okay.
worth it.
Okay, very good.
I'll go 4 stars on this.
4 stars.
I'm going to go 4.5, but I'm not just because I think I like comparing. I'm grading this against Wolf of Snow Hollow,
Okay.
which probably isn't fair, but that's what I'm doing. But this is definitely a movie we're checking out.
Okay. You don't have to qualify with Wolf. This is you rate it however you want to rate it, and I'm just giving you
6.9.
the seeds.
Every movie is a 6.9.
I'm just giving you the actual seeds to supplant me and Bruce Purkey from Cinematics, and this will be your
That's
show.
the thing about star rating. It's so hard. Like you figure you just say what you think about the movie, and that should be good enough, but it's not. You got to put a number to it.
Yes, and
I like this movie 2.5 much. I like this movie 4.75 much.
Did Erik Holmes?
Sometimes there's movies where what was that one we did like a couple weeks ago where it was the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Or Gardner?
Yeah, it was like a really bad movie unless it was a parody, in which case it was brilliant and I couldn't tell which one it was.
It's very confusing.
I was like, it's entertaining. Couldn't tell you if it's good or not.
I think Erik Holmes is going to tell listeners if this is good or not, because me and Erik and Bruce, this is part of our Patreon assigned pick and our final review for this section of Cinematics. And then you guys will head over to the attic and listen to some of Bruce Purkey's stuff. We have a movie called Copycat from the year 1995. Thank you, Patron Stephen Schrock, for this movie pick recommendation. Copycat, quote, I'm reading right now from IMDb, a criminal psychologist played by Sigourney Weaver who turned agoraphobic after a murder attempt. The person who's trying to murder her is a convict played by Harry Connick Jr., okay? After a murder attempt, agrees to help 2 San Francisco detectives played by Holly Hunter and Dermot Mulroney. Dermot Mulroney.
What was that? What was that second name? I didn't hear you.
Yes, Dermot Mulroney. We love Dermot.
I've heard of him.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard he's pretty awesome.
He's pretty bleeping awesome. And he's awesome in this movie. I don't know. I think he's very good in this movie. We'll have Erik Holmes give in his final thoughts on Dermot Mulroney's character in this movie. But he's part of two San Francisco detectives. The other one is Holly Hunter. They are hunting for a copycat serial killer who intends on making her being the psychologist, again, played by Sigourney Weaver, as his next victim. The movie is directed by John Emile. John Emile, how do you spell his last name? Emile is A-M-I-E-L. Yes, A-M-I-E-L. I remember him from the 90s. He's still, if you look at IMDb, John Emile is still working. He does movies on occasion, but a lot of his stuff recently is in television. Nothing wrong with that. TV is I think TV is the king and queen right now of content, right? Over movies. I hate to say it, but
Copycat, Man Who Knew Too Little, Entrapment, The Core.
Right.
Yeah.
Eric just named a whole bunch of movies John Emile did. He also did Summersby, which is so when you get Summersby, The Man Who Knew Too Little, The Core, Copycat, you get a director from the 90s to maybe even the early aughts who directed so many different genres. Some people would say, yes, that shows the director is very versatile. He or she can cover any genre. Or the flip side to that is this director may not have a significant auteur stamp. I don't know, Eric Holmes, what do you think about that thing when you see these movie credits of John Emile and they're so different from one another? Would you think, hey, he's a great craftsman? Or would you say he doesn't really have an auteur identity as a filmmaker? Or maybe both. It may be both apply.
I think you still be a good director and not be an auteur.
That's true.
Lament's not an auteur, but his movies, he directs them how the story needs to be.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
He's not trying to be like, I got to Sidney Lumet this up. Like, he just reads the script. Okay, this is how we're making the movie to best serve the script.
Yes.
Not saying John Emile's Sidney Lumet, but maybe he is. The fact that you can direct a movie and have it not have your fingerprints on it, but it still services whatever script you got, that there's something to be said about it. And I kind of respect it in some ways.
That's very good. Yeah, a craftsman. You got to respect a craftsman. John Emile is a craftsman. That said, Eric Holmes, your thoughts on Copycat? It's close to 2 hours. I think as of this recording, it was on Prime Video for the next several days. And it says it's also streaming on Hulu. Was this movie, I think it was a hit when it was released in 1995. I remember watching this movie in 1995 and doing a press junket. I forgot who, I interviewed Sigourney Weaver for Copycat way back in the day. And I remember my actual thoughts on Copycat 30 years ago. My initial thoughts were, because back then in the 90s, I still am a huge Brian De Palma fan, but think of me 30 years younger. I was different. I didn't have the fake voice. I was really all about Brian De Palma. And I thought, and which is going to be interesting when you guys listen to Bruce Purkey's review of Copycat, I wanted Brian De Palma to direct Copycat. Eric, I want you to think, what do you think of this movie in general? Do you think Brian De Palma would have really De Palma'd this movie up? Would it have made it a better film? Or is the movie good as is? Your review of Copycat.
I think John Emile is a pen name for Brian De Palma.
Great answer. So that's good. He did a decent job in this movie. Okay, very good.
Yeah, I remember watching this, or like when it was first a thing, like when it came out in theaters. I didn't watch it in theaters. I think I finally caught it when it was like on HBO or something.
Sure.
But I assumed that Harry Connick Jr. was going to be the main bad guy, because that's how like all the trailers you watch and even called the hype and press for it was like, the Harry Connick Jr. movie. Oh, singer crooner plays a serial killer. Like, they made a big deal about that. And when I finally watched the movie, I'm like, oh, he's barely in this. Basically think of Hannibal Lecter.
That's right.
You think Hannibal Lecter is going to be like one of the main characters of Silence of the Lambs, and he's in the movie for all of 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, if that, maybe 18, 20 minutes at the most. Yeah, maybe even, I don't know.
I would say a lot of Sigourney Weaver's PTSD comes off as extremely cheesy in this.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of that, but that's a 90s thing, I think. I imagine if they did Copycat today, they would probably treat that a lot differently. It's a 90s thing. You let that go. Overall, this movie is an incredible cheeseburger that I will eat up anytime. I wasn't going to watch it this week because I'd already seen it. We watched it like a couple months ago. And then last night I was like, man, I kind of want to watch Copycat. So I just watched it again.
I want to rewind. Why did you decide to watch it a couple of months ago? Because,
I can't remember. Someone had it on, and I was like, yeah, sure, we'll watch Copycat. And it was fun watching it then. It was fun watching it last night. Yeah. Again, we definitely have that 90s cheese, but you also have our boyfriend Dermot Mulroney in it. That always makes
Yeah.
things better. You get extra stars just for having him in it.
Oh, okay, Eric, please
There can never be a one-star Dermot Mulroney movie because he automatically gives it a star. So you can't, it would
Okay.
have to be a 0-star movie, which means it's not a movie at all.
Yeah, we love Dermot. Okay, we're
Yes.
just come on. What we should just do a Dermot Mulroney podcast on all his
Spoiler
movies.
alert, it's going to get one more star than it should just
Of
because
course.
he's in it.
When did I start loving Dermot Mulroney? I can answer that question immediately. I forget which Young Guns he was in, but I loved him in Young Guns and loved him since then. Bottom
There you
line,
go.
okay? So I remember. Yeah, I think he was in Young Guns. I'm just going off the top of my little dome right now. So also, you can push back on this, Eric, but Copycat as a suspense thriller, I think its biggest draw back then for me in 95 was Holly Hunter and Sigourney Weaver as the stars. And like you said, Connick Jr. as the crooner. I'm not going to say who the psycho serial killer is, but the person who played him, maybe an actor and actress, I always thought would lead to bigger and better things. But it's interesting. I really liked that person in that performance as well. So that was a very good casting of the serial killer in Copycat. But I think the biggest draw for me is the cinematographer. Laszlo Kovacs is a Hungarian DP. He passed away in 2007. I'm not an expert on the history of cinematographers, but when you mention the name Laszlo Kovacs, he's considered one of the iconic DPs of his day. Now, let me just go on IMDb and I'll mention just a few of the movies that he lensed. I know Anderson hates the word lens, but he shot. Okay, first of all, he shot New York, New York, directed by Martin Scorsese. That was back in 77. And then as the years go by, there's a cult movie he did in 1980 called Inside Moves. Then we're going to get into more noticeable territory.
Easy Rider.
There you go. Easy Rider. He directed the 1980, no, he lensed and was a DP of the Jessica Lange film from 1982, Francis, and Ghostbusters, Mask. Look at this. I love Little Nikita, Radio Flyer. Yes, Eric.
Fist and Paradise Alley, both in the same year, both starring Sylvester Stallone.
I still have to see Paradise Alley. I heard that movie.
Paradise Alley's all right. Fist is great.
Oh, Fist is great? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically a Jimmy Hoffa movie without being about Jimmy Hoffa.
So underrated, you think?
Oh, yeah. I don't even think many people know about it, but yeah, the fit it's FIST. It's a F dot I dot.
Did you ever see that Stallone movie Victory? I still did.
The toy.
Yeah. Oh, the toy. Yeah.
Ghostbusters, Mask.
Yeah.
Say Anything, Radio Flyer.
Yeah. And you just said 5 easy pieces, right? So look, so many great.
I did not, but I should have. Multiplicity.
Oh, yeah. You said Easy Rider. Did you say Easy Rider? But look, so many great movies. Is Copycat as good as 5 easy pieces? No.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry. I got a little excited.
What I wanted to say is when you have someone like Laszlo Kovacs as your DP, the movie is going to look good. There are going to be visual compositions that I remembered 30 years ago. There is a sequence. There's a person who dies in the movie, and I'm not going to mention who, but I still remember that death sequence 30 years later. And if we're talking about movies being the moving image, there are things, I still think that's a lost art form to have sequences that are really commandeered by the director, but also by the cinematographer to give you some very memorable, interesting pieces. And I think even though this movie was not directed by Brian De Palma, there are some really great visual moments. Yeah, it was. Right, Eric. But there are some really memorable visual moments in Copycat. Does the story hold water? Yeah, it's a decent enough story. But I ended up really in the second go round from 95, I was mixed on Copycat. It's an upscale on my review for Copycat. Final thoughts, Eric Holmes, and your rating for Copycat.
Yeah, John Emile made a really great Brian De Palma movie. And the movie's a complete cheeseburger. It's definitely cheesy in parts. There's other parts of it that don't hold up, but just watch Copycat. It's fun. It's dumb 90s fun.
Dumb 90s fun. And Eric Holmes,
throw some ketchup on it and eat it up like I did.
And look, it works. The movie works it's a cheesy movie, but it works. And the end credits, the ending sequence, and I'm not going to mention what happens in the ending sequence. I still remember that end sequence 30 plus years later. So there is a reason why I really enjoyed Copycat. That said, maybe there are some cheesy moments in Copycat, but it overall works. Thank you, Patreon member and patron Stephen Schrock, for this recommendation for 1995, and that is Copycat. Catch it on streaming. Please stream it. Yes.
Probably could have used a little more Harry Connick Jr. in there. He was a little goofy in this, but
right.
I like
Yeah.
Goofy.
And Will Patton also plays a detective, a failed detective in this.
Yeah.
And he
also
gets very emo in this movie. Let's just say that. Very interesting.
Could have used a lot more Dermot Mulroney too.
Could have used a lot more Dermot Mulroney as well, but Dermot was
without
good.
saying too much.
Without saying too much. Okay. So Erik, what is your rating on Copycat? So
normally it's a 3-star movie, but Dermot Mulroney will go 4 stars.
I'm going to embarrass myself right now, and I'm going to go 4 stars as well. I know the wannabe critic in me wants
Keep
to
in
say
mind,
3.5 stars.
It has Dermot Mulroney, so really it's a 3-star movie, but he's in it, so it pushes it up to 4 stars.
I will agree Erik to a point.
The numbers don't make sense.
No.
What if this was what if I watch a movie that's a 6.9-star movie, and then they have Dermot Mulroney in it? That creates a time paradox and the world explodes.
So I'm going to raise that Dermot Mulroney added value with Laszlo Kovacs as the DP. So that's why I'm giving Copycat. And of course, Holly Hunter and Sigourney Weaver, they're the actors that you can depend on. They're both good. And each of them have their own story. And look, we didn't say this. Each of them have their own story in this movie. They're equally, I think, weighted. I don't know if you feel that way.
Holly Hunter, she's kind of like she got that kind of Clarice Starling kind of feel to her.
Sure.
But I think Holly Hunter is like kind of more of a badass than Clarice Starling is.
All right. Yeah.
Because like she's kind of like, I'm taking charge here. Clarice Starling was that way too, but she was like real green. Like Holly Hunter in this, she's been
correct.
She's been doing this for a while, and she knows how to get in there and do her things.
And yeah, she definitely does do her things in Copycat, without giving too much away. Please, would love to hear your thoughts on Copycat. And that is it for this episode of Cinematics. Erik and I are now going to record our Patreon episode when we're going to review the movies and talk about the movies Last of the Dogmen and also Shallow Grave. Thank you, Rob Wilfong, for those really... Why did I say Rob? You know why I said Rob Wilfong? Because I think Rob Wilfong was a baseball player. Chad Wilfong. I apologize. Chad, thank you so much. You want to add anything before we get out of here, Erik Holmes?
Yes. First of all, Chad Wilfong, love you. You're awesome.
We love you.
And yeah, as soon as that Project Hail Mary thing comes out, listen to the audiobook, read it, then watch it. Although we don't spoil anything until we say we're going to spoil stuff, and then we spoil the living crap out of the book. But needless to say, I'm excited for it. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. And again, thank you so much for supporting us over at Cinematics. We'll see you next week. And of course, here is Bruce Purkey over at the Cinem-Attic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cinem-Attic, the attic of cinema. Once again, he let me down early this week, that being Erik, the he I speak of. That's because I did a really good job this week, and I helped him out with a little discussion of Project Hail Mary. Now, Erik has been a long-time proponent of Project Hail Mary. He's really worried that people are going to get the spoiler, the twist, the reveal that happens probably a third of the way through Project Hail Mary, the book. And the minute that promo material starts coming out for the movie, which is supposed to officially come out next spring, but might get released this fall if they get an early push on it, he is worried that people are going to lose some of the fun. So he decided, let's try to get people out there reading this book ahead of time. So that way you get to enjoy the reveal and enjoy the upcoming movie. At some point, this is going to come out whenever Greg gets around to releasing it. It might be out now. It might not be. Either way, this is your chance to get started and read that before you get to our discussion. Or if you don't care about spoilers at all, you just get into the discussion when it comes out. All right. Anyway, because of that, he let me down a little early to talk about the stuff we're doing this week. Now, like every 4th to 5th episode, there isn't as much on the main episode because we have a Patreon episode this week. This week's Patreon episode, by the way, is for 1995. We have the movie Shallow Grave and Last of the Dogmen. And I am the one doing spoilers for those movies, so I will discuss those when the time comes. Now, it might already be up when you're listening to this. It may not. I think it's going to be out by probably early next week by my current situation of time and space. Now, what do I have for the regular show this week? I have a few things. I have Escape from the 21st Century. That is a screener I got, one of the many that we got. I did that one. We also have our 1995 bonus movie that we put in the main episode, which is Copycat. I also have a short, I'll just quickly mention, The Quilters, and I watched Baby Girl, which came out just at the end of last year, 2024. It's an A24 release, and it is now available on HBO Max. Okay, let's get to it. Escape from the 21st Century is the first true screener I have for this week. This is directed by Young Lee. It's a Chinese production. We get a lot of Korean and Japanese and various other international movies. We don't get a lot of Chinese movies. So it's interesting when one of those comes across. And this basically surrounds the story of three main characters, three friends. You've got the cool guy, I just call him the cool guy, who is Cheng Yong. I'm not even going to try all their actual names, their acting names, because I'll just butcher them all. You have the skinny friend, and his name is Wang Jia. And we have the overweight friend, and his name is Pao. And you see them all in 1999. They're all kind of buddies. The cool guy is fallen in love with a girl in high school, and he thinks it's his love for life. And they have a little brawl with some kind of gang-like dudes in the neighborhood, and it ends up involving them falling into like a quarry lake, and the quarry lake gets a whole bunch of toxic waste dumped into it. And this combination of them being in the lake with all this toxic waste causes the three boys to have this strange power/ability where essentially what happens is if they sneeze, they are magically transported to 20 years in the future. So 2019. And if they sneeze again, they go back to the past. So it's a time travel alternate universe movie in a way, because they're in their older selves' lives and their future selves' lives, although it's the past still for us. That's an interesting one to me. I'm kind of surprised when I watched this. I was like, why didn't they make this movie take place in 2019 originally and then go forward to 2039? Then they could really go crazy with what's happening in the future. But maybe they wanted to keep it realistic as far as like the actual future is still a believable world. Now, all this being said, you could be like, okay, sounds like a kind of interesting little time travel movie where maybe you have to deal with your destiny. Because a few little facts. Cool guy is in love with a girl. They say they're going to be together forever. High school romance kind of a thing. And then, of course, you flash 20 years in the future. Cool guy now is in a life of crime. And Pao, the heavyweight dude, he is now not heavyweight anymore. He's really buff. And in the future, he is dating the girl. And they have been together. And she's had a hard life, you can tell, because she's into drugs and everything. And then skinny dude is still just skinny dude. And he, in the future, is the one that's teaming up with this reporter and trying to find the other two in the future and solve some things. And it becomes one of those things where it's like, you need to go to the past and the future and the past and the future to try to fix some threads that got messed up as time had passed. How can they do these things? Now, all this sounds like, it could be kind of interesting, cool little time travel, mind bender, maybe a sort of little bit of, like I said, alternate universe story. Because if you were in your future universe, it's almost like as if it was an alternate universe for you. Oh, and the whole time they said that was on a different planet. I know that's weird, right? They said, I think I wrote it down somewhere. Oh, Planet K. So there's like a little voiceover at the beginning, and they say, oh yeah, we're on Planet K. My assumption is you can't really tell it's different than Earth. There isn't like a bunch of aliens or anything. My guess is it's a way to just explain like how this toxic waste would cause this ability, and kind of to allow certain things in the future, which is a known time period for us now, to be slightly different than our actual future. So it gives you that unreality element you can add to it. The thing I'm not really giving across is the style of this movie. And the style is very busy, very frantic, very style over substance. This feels like After Tarantino had Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, there became a whole bunch of Tarantino-esque movies. And some were great, and some were not great because they were just really trying to do what Tarantino did, but didn't have the story to go with it and the writing to go with it. This is, to me, one of those movies that is like very obviously post Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie doesn't exist in the way that it exists here without Everything Everywhere All at Once existing. Now, if you were the type of person that was annoyed by Everything Everywhere All at Once because you just felt like it was this noisy, worked mess, then I could see your experience here to me, because this is how I feel about this movie. I feel like this movie has a kernel of a really great idea and some interesting characters and an interesting situation and a very simple, in a sense, a very simple story. But it is mucked up with so much noise, so much visual noise, and it's so frantic and so frenetic and so loud and so just busy and self-conscious that it really gets weighed down. It becomes it's exhausting. And I know some people got exhausted by Everything Everywhere All at Once. I didn't. I really enjoyed it, but that's a super hard kind of a balance to maintain. And I think that they did that in that movie. Whereas here, I felt the weight. And even though this movie isn't super long, I feel like it's just 96 minutes. It just felt like 3 hours because there's so much packed into it. And sometimes it worked a little bit. Like sometimes I really saw what they were doing. I was like, oh, that's cool. There'd be a little visual flair. Or there's some evil characters in a sense here. There's like this whole subplot about like organ selling crime ring kind of a thing in the future. And there's this one guy as a scientist, and it's like the top of his head had been chopped off, but it's still on his head. So if you imagine there's like a seam, like a little cut that had gone all the way around his head and smoke's coming out of that. I know it sounds weird, very sci-fi thing. That's a cool little touch, little things like that I really enjoyed. The reporter woman that skinny guy meets up with in the future is really fun, and their kind of budding romance / just friendship, I think to me ends up becoming more the emotional core of the movie and her character arc than the romance from the past that has been changed in the future that needs to be rekindled or whatever it is. And a lot of that, I lost that thread. And I think that's the big knock, unfortunately, in this movie is that you lose the thread a lot. You get so stuck in the swirling cacophony of visuals and sounds that you kind of lose what the story's about. Now, this could be a movie on a rewatch. If someone watched it, you might catch all those things and it might become really cool and intricate. But to me, it just didn't quite work for me. I also kept getting the feeling, and I don't believe this is necessarily true, I get the feeling of this is like what a movie is like when you have some ideas, but then you just let AI fill in some of the gaps. And I'm not saying that's what happened. Again, I'm not saying that's what happened, but it feels like that. It feels like AI spackle. Maybe not. Maybe it's all from the creative mind of, who was it, Young Lee or somebody else. Either way, I wished I could have enjoyed it more than I did. And when it all was said and done, this is one of those movies I would almost say, I almost want to recommend it, but I don't, because I didn't really have a good time watching it. So I can't do that. But I'll say 2.5. It's like on the verge of a recommend because there's a lot of ideas, a lot of interesting things here. But to me, ultimately, it just didn't quite work. So I'll go 2.5 stars for Escape from the 21st Century. But I would say if you're the type of person that likes creative and oddball sci-fi fantasy kind of movies, I would still say to give it a chance, because for some people, this is going to hit the spot. And this is going to be one of their favorite underdiscovered movies from recent years. Somebody, this is going to be perfect for them. So it's worth a try either way. Okay, next up, we've got from 1995, our key year, we have Copycat by John Emile. Oh, I should look up John Emile's other credits. John Emile's done a bunch of stuff, not very much directing, other than maybe I think a lot of TV and stuff. But John Emile has done a lot of things. I'm just going to say Copycat's the one that I'm familiar with from the past. And I have seen this once in the past, and I remembered it being about the time it came out. I remembered liking it okay. I got to remember this is post Silence of the Lambs, which once again, I was just talking about how Everything Everywhere All at Once obviously influenced Escape from the 21st Century. Tarantino influenced all these things. Silence of the Lambs definitely brought upon a huge glut of serial killer kind of movies getting bigger releases, not being little potboilers, but being marquee, A grade, great actors, studio push, that kind of thing. I think Copycat was a mid version of one of those. Like it had a moderate push. It feels like it had a budget. Obviously, it has Sigourney Weaver and Holly Hunter in the main roles. MJ is Holly Hunter and Helen is Sigourney Weaver. And then Reuben is Dermot Mulrooney. And then you do have, in a small role, but one that's all over the posters and the production of this, is Daryl Lee Coleman, played by Harry Connick Jr. Obviously, at that time, he's mostly known as a singer, but he has done quite a few acting roles. I think the best I've seen him in was probably Bug. If I remember correctly, he's the a-hole boyfriend in Bug. He definitely had it looks like he wanted to really play a bunch of bad guys or something, because he definitely wanted this role, you can tell. So, basic concept of Copycat is, first of all, Harry Connick Jr.'s role in this, he is trying really hard to be the creepy, southern, slimy serial killer. And at the beginning of the movie, he essentially has cornered Sigourney Weaver's character. Sigourney Weaver she's like an expert on serial killers. She gives out like big old speeches, almost like TED Talks, but professor kind of speeches about who serial killers are and what makes them tick and how they could just be the normal guy next to you on the bus and all this kind of stuff. Right after her speech, she basically gets cornered by Harry Connick Jr.'s character, and he just about kills her, but she eventually gets away and he gets caught. And that's a pre-credit sequence. He is overacting so badly, and they're trying to make him evil, and it really comes across as funny to me, really funny. I was saying in our line little chat that he comes across as a Ben Stiller character. If you think of a Ben Stiller character when you watch that opening scene from Copycat, I defy you not to imagine that it's Ben Stiller doing Simple Jack as a serial killer. That's when it comes across. It's really dumb, so dumb. And every scene that Harry Connick Jr.'s character is in this, he is acting at a 10, overacting at a 10, whereas everyone else is trying to take it seriously. And I think he's trying to take it seriously too. The notes on this said something like he spent months studying serial killers to come up with this. I'm like, dude, you should have spent longer or less long. I don't know what it was, but you definitely overacted this one a lot. So is this a good movie? It's not great. It's relatively fun. It's definitely very dated. Like you go back and watch Silence of the Lambs, and it's dated too, but it's such a perfectly paced and written and acted movie that is just so rewatchable and just works so well. And even the stuff that is a little old now in that movie, it doesn't matter because it just works so well. And this movie just comes across to me now as very much a very tropey serial killer movie. Now, the things that do work for it, there's a few things that do work for it. First of all, the fact that the two main characters are women is really unusual. You do not see that in these movies in this era. You definitely get like one character. Clarice Starling is the young woman FBI agent trying to work her way up, but she has all these men and mentors trying to push down on her and control her. And that's the big point of that movie. In this movie, you've got the now agoraphobic Sigourney Weaver character because of her trauma from being attacked by Harry Connick. She now just stays in her apartment, but she's always trying to, on the side, solve these cases and help the police. And then, of course, you got the detective, Holly Hunter, recognizing that Sigourney Weaver is not a nut job, that she's actually got some really good insights. So the interaction between those two really sings in this movie. And unfortunately, it doesn't have enough space. And I think a big part of that is this acts like a first not a serial killer, like a first superhero movie. It acts as an origin story. You can tell they wanted to have a series of these movies where these two would team up, where you'd have the Holly Hunter detective and the Sigourney Weaver broken but brilliant computer using at-home person that could help solve these serial killer cases. And that would be an ongoing thing they would have. And that could have been a lot of fun. It definitely also is in the category of 90s movies that use computers when computers are brand new and really try to make that a big plot point. And now it seems very dated and it's fun in its own right. Like I said, there's a lot of tropes here. You can ignore those. The other good thing about the movie is the basic concept is pretty good too. The concept that you have the serial killer out there who is basing his killings off of different famous serial killings. Each one is a different famous serial killing, and he's using features from those actual crime scenes, like the poses of the bodies and where they're killed and the type of person that's killed, how they're killed, and not calling it out, just having the detectives have to figure it out. And I thought that was pretty good too. And that part was the only part where it got a little like truly a little bit gross and a little bit creepy was when you'd see like the actual serial killing crime photos and how he's trying to stage his current killings to match those. And I thought that was pretty effective. So overall, what do you say about Copycat? If you like 90s thrillers or you like serial killer thrillers, this I think is enough of an oddball and a kind of a lost gem in some ways. It's not a great movie, like I said, but it's a gem in the sense that it's unusual and notable for that. Then it might be worth you checking out. You probably would have a good time with it. I would say I had a good time with it, even though I didn't love it as a movie. And also, I kept thinking, so I'm going to say, what am I going to rate this? It's not a 3-star banger because it's not the best at it's not the best at that kind of a thing. There's a lot of other movies that are better at serial killer detective movies, but I'm going to give it 3 stars, but not a banger. The other thing I thought about this movie is this movie would have really, John Emile is fine, but it would have really benefited from Brian De Palma. This movie feels like a Brian De Palma project directed by like his not as audacious and not as talented brother, Brad De Palma, or something. Like, hey, Brad De Palma, you direct this movie because we can't afford Brian. And then Brad can do it, but he doesn't get the split screens or the split diopters, and he doesn't get all crazy, and he doesn't have a giant like set piece. This movie needs all those things. If this exact script, same actors, same script, not a great script, same script, give it to Brian De Palma in that era, mid-90s, and watch how much more fun and campy and weirdo and just the shots he would have done and the sequences he would have made. This would have been an absolute cult classic at this point. It still could be a cult classic, I think, to some people, but it would definitely be a cult classic if Brian De Palma had made. I said Brian De Palma. Sorry, I trumped myself there. Brian De Palma. This would have been fantastic. Anyway, it was fun to watch again. I would, if this was on TV, I would watch parts of it. It has a kind of a cheeseburger appeal to it, for sure. Okay, last few things for this week. I didn't really have any thoughts to watch Baby Girl, but we were really bored one night. My wife and I were trying to figure out something to watch, and for whatever reason, we thought, let's give Baby Girl a try. Let's see what this is. Baby Girl is directed by Helena Rain, I don't know how to say the names. I'm assuming it's Rain. That is the director of Bodies, Bodies, which was a surprise. I surprised by how much I liked Bodies, Bodies. I thought it was going to be super annoying, Zoomer, snarky comedy, which it was, but it, for whatever reason, it really worked for me. It also felt like one of those movies that's going to have all the people that are stars later on in it. A lot of them are already stars, but you get those movies like Outsiders and stuff where everybody in there ended up becoming huge 20 years later, and Bodies had a little bit of that vibe as well. Anyway, Baby Girl stars as Romy, Nicole Kidman, as Jacob, Antonio Banderas, her husband, and Samuel, played by Harris Dickinson. And he's the young strapping man that comes to Romy's office. So this is presented as, when I went into this, I thought, is this going to be like a serious dissertation on psychosexual dom culture, really peeling back the veil and letting us look inside this world, blah, blah, blah. And it presents itself that way. Or is this going to be a 90s style potboiler, fatal attraction, disclosure, pick your Michael Douglas, Hands Rocks the Cradle, pick your Michael Douglas starring sexual thrillery kind of thing from the 90s that's very, like I said, potboilery, very overwrought and funny and camp because of that. And this movie, it teeters right on the edge. I feel like, unfortunately, it teeters too much on the edge. I feel like it doesn't it wants to be taken seriously and make a serious look at the role women are forced to play, and that women are more complex, and you can't necessarily understand a person without understanding their desires and stuff like that. On the other hand, it veers like it almost wants to just go full camp and full overheated drama, sexually charged drama. And it's almost like I wish it would have tipped one way or the other a little more, because there's some stuff in here that's just too ridiculous to not be intentionally at least bordering on camp and funny. Things like this. Okay. So obviously Nicole Kidman's character, she's like a executive. And she works a high-powered job, and she's very high-strung and stressed out and in control at all times. It's the stereotype character for this kind of sexual drama, except usually it's the dude, right? So the role reversal, of course, right off the bat is going to be different, subversive for this kind of movie. But what isn't subversive for this kind of movie is the ridiculousness of it. And that is, so she's that kind of person, right? Oh, and Antonio Banderas is artsy and longtime husband and loving and caring and sensitive, but he can never get her off because he's just not crazy enough. You see that it opens with them in bed, and he's just enjoying the heck out of it. And when he's done, she runs off to the other room to find some dom sub porn. And that's what gets her to the over the edge. And immediately, this is their character. She's going to have to, something's going to change. And what does it? She's on the street in New York, and everyone's running around, and it's very busy. And this angry dog is running around on the street, and it's out of control. And people are like running, dodging out of the way. Oh my God, there's a dog. And this young man just stops and bends down, and the dog just stops immediately and submits to him. You get where this is going. And she's just gobsmacked. She's taken aback. Oh my gosh, who is this vision who can just tame this wild beast? And when you say it out loud, you can see how cheesy it is. And it has to know, but it plays it very straight. So I think to some degree, this is a very sly comedy that is almost expecting people to not get the comedy. But I think the comedy is there. And of course, immediately he turns out to be one of the interns coming into her office, and he's the one that's assigned to her. And all this stuff is just, oh my gosh, it's meant to be. And eventually at one point she confronts him with that dog scene, and he says something like, she's like, how did you do that? And he's, oh, I gave it a cookie or something like that. And then she's, what was it? Or line, it's so funny. Something like, he's like, something like, do you want one? Or something like that. There's all this stuff where it's just so obvious that she's like constantly standing behind, like halfway behind the edge of a wall, like staring at him or something. And he always meets her gaze and just, I know what's up with you. And it's just, some of the lines are so funny. It's so dumb and funny, but I think they're intentionally dumb and funny. Another standout moment like that is there's several music drops in here. In Excess, Everything Tear Us Apart, that song. But the one that really got me was at one point in the movie, this is when they're pretty much into their torrid affair, where she's submitting to his charms, and she's obsessed and obsessive, and she can't get enough of him, but she's ruining her life, all the things you'd expect in this kind of movie. And the music starts, and I'm like, oh my God. I looked over at my wife and said, are they playing Father Figure? And I go, by George Michael. And my wife said, I think they're playing Father Figure. And sure enough, they play Father Figure. And I'm just like, you can't do that. That's just too. I was like, okay, guys, you should have just played the Stooges' I Want to Be Your Dog. Come on. You should have gone all the way. But I guess they felt that was a bridge too far. Anyway, your enjoyment of this movie will vary wildly. If you are like secretly trying to explore your dominance and submissive sides of your world, maybe this will just tap into something, and you, like Nicole Kidman, will find your true self, but also destroy your life. Or maybe you'll find it like myself and my wife and spend about half the time laughing and pointing at the ridiculousness of the movie, but thinking it's in on the joke too. So is it great? No, it could have been great, but it didn't veer far enough either direction. Is it terrible? No, definitely not terrible. And the work that Nicole Kidman, I didn't really care so much about this Harris Dickinson guy. Harry Dick wasn't so much of a care for me. But Banderas is doing some great work here. He has a few pretty awesome moments towards the end of this movie, especially. Nicole Kidman is just doing she's putting her all into it. This is one of those movies, Anderson over at the Film Vault, he talks about this sometimes when there's a movie that's not so great, but then there's this one actor just putting everything into it and he feels bad for the actor. I don't feel bad for Nicole Kidman here because she's putting her all into it and I think she's in on it too, but she's playing it deadly serious. And I think that is a good call because on a movie that's ridiculous like this, playing it deadly serious makes the comedy, the subversive comedy, more effective, I do believe. So I choose to believe this is a subversive comedy, and in that light, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Not a great movie, but I had a lot of fun watching it, and I think I'd have fun rewatching it. I think it's pretty funny. I hope to hear you say I'm not crazy about this. I hope people don't say, you know what, Bruce, this is a very serious movie about kink and power and a woman's role in society. How did you not take it seriously? That could be an outcome. And if it is, oh, I guess that's where I will lie. Okay. Like a dog on the street needing a cookie. All right. Just the last few minute mentions here. These are very quick. These are just things I watched. I'm not going to go through reviews of them necessarily, other than say The Quilters. The Quilters is a documentary short you can watch on Netflix right now. You might check it out. It seems like a kind of movie that just kind of maybe missed the cut for Oscar buzz, but it was, maybe it got Oscar. I don't even know what the short nominations were. Anyway, The Quilters is directed by Jennifer McShane. Really quick on Netflix. It's about 30 minutes. Really interesting. A great pair. You could pair this with Sing from last year, and I think you have a great combo platter of a narrative and a documentary that kind of do similar things. Because this takes place in a high security prison, high level offenders, and they have an ongoing project, kind of like Sing Sing had acting and musical work to give a kind of meaning and humanity to people that are basically in these places for life. The Quilters is basically a certain group of these prisoners, these inmates, can work in the room just making quilts. And you think, what? They're making quilts? And it's true, they make quilts, beautiful quilts. And the quilts are all given to like foster children and children for whatever reason, children in need. And it becomes a way for them not only to feel like they have a purpose, because a lot of these people may or may not ever get out of prison. They're going to either be there for a very long time or never get out. And it gives them an actual feeling of a purpose and something where they are literally giving back to the world. And it just goes to show you that if your point of prison is rehabilitation, whether they get out or not, and not just punishment, then isn't that better for society than just punishment? Because if punishment is our only role for prison, then what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? And it's once again, people say, like, yeah, but they did something terrible, so that's what they deserve. And it's okay, I get that. I get that people should be rewarded. People do something terrible, there needs to be a penalty. Like you can't have someone committing murder or heinous acts and nothing happens because that's terrible. But you also have to say, now what? And also as a society, what do we stand for to hopefully, even if we can't stop these people, can we not create more? Maybe. And don't fool yourself. There's a lot of people doing heinous stuff that we know they did, and they're not getting punished at all. So let's also put that in there. Either way, this is very fascinating. It's fascinating from the side of just watching people learn how to make quilts. It sounds like it'd be boring. It's really not. And you just essentially meet 5 or 6 people that are making the quilts and learning a little bit about their stories, but also like why it matters to them and how it works for them and what it's doing for them. And yes, they do answer questions like, aren't these quilters using a bunch of tools that could just be essentially dangerous weapons in prison? They are, and they do address that situation. Anyway, pretty great and easy watch. I would say I would probably go 4 stars on this for The Quilters. Kind of a little bonus there for you. And the other things I watched this week, just to let you know, rewatched Go from 1999, Doug Liman. I think one of the best movies that Doug Liman ever made, and is highly underrated, highly 90s movie that it is very dated, but now almost becomes a period piece. So you could see it being made now as a period piece and looking like this. It has some fantastic moments in it and is such a fun movie, and I think very underseen. Go. It's 4.5 stars for me. And then I rewatched Battle Royale with my son because we were talking about Battle Royale versus Hunger Games. Battle Royale is very influential. It's a Japanese movie about a bunch of kids on an island, school-age kids, and they all are forced to kill each other until only one or two remain, and that is the thing that's being put on. It's not as good as Hunger Games, though. The characters aren't as good. It's not as entertaining. It kind of doesn't age very well. I only came up with 2.5 stars for it. So if you want a couple other things to think about, there's a couple there. Overall, a pretty interesting week. What would I suggest? The Screener was probably our weakest one, unfortunately. Copycat and Baby Girl both kind of similarly work really well as fun and unintentionally more fun in a way than they expect to be. I think they expect to be more hard-hitting, and then they are. But if you're like me, you'll probably enjoy them in a different way. Look forward to having a bunch of new stuff for you next week, and look forward to having you guys hear our Patreon episode, because I can tell you one thing. There's 2 movies, and one is pretty terrible, and one is pretty great. I think you might be able to guess which is which, but maybe not. And I really wonder what Erik and Greg will think of one of them. Well, actually, both of them. I'm curious. That's the one good thing about doing this attic thing, is that I'm like you guys now. I don't know exactly what they're going to say about these movies. So sometimes I have an opinion and they're like, well, you're crazy. We loved that movie. Or vice versa. You're crazy. You loved that movie? That was terrible. So I also get to be a listener as well as a participant at the same time. So talk to y'all soon. I got to get back up the attic. He gave me a little extra yard time, but I only get so much. And I think I'm overstayed my credit. I must go back into the attic. I feel like I need like a squeaking door sound effect. That's supposed to be a squeaking door sound effect. Anyway, last thing before I let you guys go, before you let me go. We got a new kitty cat this week. There was a cat left on the side of the road, and it was very hot, and it was a very tiny kitten. And it wasn't looking so well, so we picked it up, and now we have 3 cats. And our new cat, we haven't taken it into the vet yet, so we think it's a boy, but we're going to find out. If it's a girl, it's going to be Ripley, and if it's a boy, it's going to be Bishop, because my wife loves Aliens almost as much as she loves Silence of the Lambs and Seven. So Bishop or Ripley. I know a few people out there will appreciate those names for a little black cat. All right. Bye.